tell me is
how many they answered,
correct.
how many they got right,
and how many they didn't answer at all because they didn't get a chance to finish the test. That's what that doesn't tell me.
Yeah, I can respond to that. Actually, on the profile that they get a list, you know, the raw score means how many were on there and how many did they actually.
Oh, I'm not talking about me as a parent. I'm talking about me as a board to know, you know, as a board member.
Yeah, for some kids that is an issue with a computation.
They just don't have enough time.
Correct. Okay. And we know which kids that's an issue with, but it's not a general statement that would apply to every kid.
Would it necessarily be the kids that maybe have an IEP? Would you say that those are the ones that don't finish in time? I know mine
that's
didn't.
a little different thing because then those kids, if they have an IEP, would get an accommodation.
So untimed.
Correct.
Yeah. Adaptive tests, though, are untimed. In general, an adaptive test would not be timed. So maybe we should look at an adaptive test as opposed to a time test.
But to your point, yes, it could be an issue for some kids.
Matt, how many years have we had Action Math?
This is our third year.
It is our third year. And I think I've mentioned it before and I will mention it tonight, is I really think when we have remediation issues, it is our district's responsibility to tend to those remediation issues during the school day. You know, I've had issues in the past. I don't think we should be doing Action Math either before school or after school. It should be twice.
Well, we certainly look for opportunities to do that, and we do our best to fit that in.
I understand
really
there's only so much time in the day. We went through this at middle school when we had the reading and we had the math, and how do we balance both? But you know, I just think as we go forward and we consider our options, perhaps we can consider that one.
And we are. And as a matter of fact, that was one of the discussions we had at the staff meeting, is look at all the things we do for reading. Okay, we have pull-outs, we have 2 reading specialists, I have a lot of things going on, we do a lot of different assessments compared to math. What do we do for remediation of math? And we don't do as much, so that's something we're looking into. Better assessment, more thorough assessment, and what can we do similar to reading.
But we have, you know, as long as the topic of Action Math has been brought up, as long as the topic of Action Math has been brought up, that's fine, but that would only address, and I'm making up the number, so if I'm wrong, correct me, you know, children that score a 40 or below on a certain X, the X test, whatever that might be. So that makes the assumption that your ISAT decrease is going right back to your question about IEP, or in this case 40 or below. It assumes that, well, if you've scored 41 or greater, you're not going to get that remediation. You know what I mean? And where I think that the test is showing that, because last month you had mentioned that this is the first time that, you know, children that you wouldn't expect to have a decrease have, and it could very well be because the test is harder. There's a lot more questions, a lot more difficulty. Action Math isn't going to address it because they're never going to get pointed out to be in that class. To your point of remediation has to take place somewhere else. Even if it's in Action Math, we have to open that up, which goes back to something that I think I've asked for a couple of years, and that is it feasible to actually put an agenda together for Action Math so that if a parent whose child has not been identified to be in Action Math sees a topic that they recognize their child's having difficulty in, they can say, you know what, I'm going to get you to school that week for that lesson.
That's a good idea.
So again, I think what we're saying is, you know, think out of the box.
I'm sorry?
Let's really expand, you know, what we can do in terms of remediation.
And Action Math, you're competing with band, right? And orchestra or whatever after school. So it's got to be hard. I mean, if a kid is a musical talent as opposed to a math, you know, if they're struggling in math, they'd rather go to play their instrument than go to math. I mean, I certainly would. You know, so they're going to choose the path of least resistance. So you got to make it like appealing.
And we try, you know, to say an extra hour after school and do something that maybe you're not very good at. We really try to make it fun for kids. We want them to be there and enjoy it and do things a little bit different than they've been doing during the day. But we do compete with a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, in school and also probably out of school, you know.
Any other questions?
Do we not do RTI, response to intervention?
No. I don't think so.
Certainly.
So what does that cover the problems then with band and math? So you're looking at each individual, right?
We do it for reading.
Oh, just for reading?
For reading, we only do
It's not
RTI?
for math.
No, it's not fair. No, but you're talking about
The research-based.
It should be a
structured
research-validated
interventions.
program. Is Action Math a research-validated program? I guess that's what you're asking.
Correct.
That's our RTI, correct?
I think your question, Karen, that is not a panacea for all the issues we're having with computation, because the kids who are in that kind of pipeline for RTI would be a smaller subset than we're dealing with, say, with like Action Math, or in this case now with a more difficult test. It's really an issue for all the kids with computation. So it does help, but it's not, you can't say we're taking care of everything with that, with RTI process.
So I guess that is my question though, is Action Math the structured, the research-based structured plan or intervention? Right.
Well, I would say that we use research-based practices and instruction.
But Action Math's not one that's part of that? Or it hasn't been proven? Because that's.
It has to be progress monitored. I mean, if it's not progress monitored, it's not RTI. It has to be research-based progress monitored to be an RTI program. But I don't think Action Math is progress monitor. I mean, is it?
Yes, it is. You could.
It is currently?
Yes. They take the interim.
They take what?
They took the interim ITBS. The interim
Just
ITBS.
only the kids in Action Math took it?
Yeah.
Are we going to see those scores? Do you have them
I
yet?
have some of the scores back.
The interim?
So they're just not converted to how in NPR.
Yeah, we're waiting to get that back from Riverside yet. They just took that in the end of January. Is that it?
Beginning, January 9th.
So I know how many questions they got right out of 26.
We still have to get the scaled scores, so that's coming. All right.
So at the end of the day, are we anticipating as a board any suggestions from the teachers on what can be changed in the curriculum, the core standards?
Well, what we'll be doing, and we've already talked about this at Curriculum Council, is we're going to have to begin the process now. I mean, these Common Core standards have been on a relatively short period of time, so it's not just math. I mean, the good news is that when we gave this ITBS test aligned with Common Core, we didn't see huge deficits. We certainly didn't computation. So the area we need to focus on most quickly is pre-K to 3 math, but we're going to have to do work in all the curricular areas to align with Common Core. So will every district. No, it's a new day. Definitely the bar is higher.
Are the Common Core tests, are they going to be adaptive, like the maps? Because that's what I thought I had read. They're not going to be like ITBS, where it's just that they are going to be adaptive.
What's happening with that is it gets kind of confusing because here's there's confusing terminology, but by 2014, the state of Illinois set that as a target date to get rid of, and you heard this from Kathy Lawrence, is that the ISAT will be a test of the past. And so the big question is between now and then, what is going to be the statewide measurement in terms of Common Core standards? It'll be a different test, and assuming the state does what they say they're going to do on time, that'll be a very different thing for all districts because it'll be a difficult test. Exactly. I mean, they will contract out with whatever company to do that, whether it's Riverside or Pearson, whoever. There'll be some kind of bidding process. So you'll be hearing a lot about it.
But all the kids will take the same test that are, in the Common Core, all the states. It's like, I don't know how many states, you know how many states?
Well, there's a couple of consortiums.
Couple tests, yeah, there's the park test and there's another test, I can't remember. But I mean, everyone that's in that consortium will take the same test.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics kind of happening all at the same time right now, so it's some big changes in the next couple of years in public education. Certainly bigger changes I've seen in my career up to this point.
And it's not just public, private as well. I mean, seriously, with the Common Core, it's not just the public that needs to adapt. Privates are doing it too, so I think across the state, it's just across the state. So
Across the country, really.
it really is, yeah.
Well, I want to thank our teachers again.
I
A
don't
big
have a
part.
question, but
Let's get a big round of applause.
I don't have a question, but I have a perspective.
Sorry.
So, I mean, I think it's